Hello everybody and welcome back to Selene. Thank you guys so much for all the positivity you guys have been giving with this game. And like I said, I'm going to be working on some new lines for this. Huge thank you to Flat Chest developers, by the way, just for having me part of the game and making the game in general. They make a pretty good horror game. He still couldn't sleep, but at least he was making some progress with the script. It was a narrative game project, as the customer called it, but actually meant do whatever you have to finish it on time, else forget about the payment. And so he did, although he was resentful, and that got in the way a lot. The reason of those feelings was the cat. He knew how stupid it was, but he couldn't help it. He forgave her for the bite almost immediately. That wasn't the thing. He was bitter about how the cat ran away, despite him trying his best to take care of her. She was nowhere to be found in the house, so he immediately thought about the open window on the second floor. Maybe he should have closed it. He dwelled on that for a while. He even approached the window at some point, but in the end, he decided not to do anything about it. He was hoping, and there was no shame in that. It's not the same as you turn up 10 and start eyeing girls, the cat would come back. And she did. He had just settled himself on the sofa with some book. Some was the word, as he couldn't remember a thing from the cover, even though he'd read the title several times. The symbol was floating before his eyes, and of course he couldn't make out a word. No wonder, considering he didn't sleep at all. When you think about it, it was a surprise he could write in this state. Either way, he was barely following the book. So he wasn't upset at all when the fluffy head butted his hand. Hey, I'm trying to read here.
And you don't seem to be getting anywhere. What does it matter anyways? Better scratch me right here.
He complied. You were absent for so long. I thought you won't be back.
Then why didn't you close the window upstairs?
There's a big difference between expectations and hopes. He had learned that well. Why did you leave? Did I do anything wrong? The cat stayed silent. I think we did happiness last time, so let's be bitter. Don't mind me. I'm here to collect the tomato soup. Alright, it doesn't matter that much. I'm happy to have you back. After all, there was no point in his grudge from the start. By the way, if you guys know any other visual novels like this, I'd love to play them. Nobody gains anything by holding on to small grudges and staying blind to what they feel. He wouldn't have won anything. It's not a damn lottery. The cat rubbed against his arm again. He put the book down and gently placed her on his lap. The locket around her neck, unexpectedly cold, touched his skin. Then he got a hunch. Did you go home?
I have no home.
Well, someone must be caring about you if they put that collar on.
Sometimes a collar is just a collar. Don't you know?
This time, it was him who stayed silent. The cat buried her head in his stomach. Want me to take it off?
No. It is mine now. Besides, it's easier this way if I catch someone's eye on the streets.
He nodded because, if you think about it, that really was a reasonable choice. The cat's fur was thick and smooth, very pleasant to the touch. He wanted to bury his face in it, find out what it smelled like. What she smells like. Do you have a name?
Of course. Everything has a name.
And what's yours? The cat looked at him carefully with her bright yellow eyes as if saying, take a guess. But she didn't actually say anything. On her locket there was a small engraving, a crescent moon that was dimly shining in the pale light coming out of the window. Selene. The cat looked up at him, and her pupils flickered into 2 full moons in the eclipse. Then she rubbed against his arm one last time and stood up, stretching and arching her back.
Don't close the window on the 2nd floor.
I won't. She left, but the name stayed with him, in and around the house. Selene. So humid, the glass white in the moonlight. So whispered the long shadows of the branches outside the window. Outdated? Oh, okay, I get it. Selene. He wasn't sleeping, but his house was, and its lullaby was woven with a single word. I actually do have to find out how to get all the endings. He had a suspicion concerning rats for a while already. At times, something scratched inside the walls, and he became sensitive to such things when he could not sleep for a long time. Faced with these symptoms, the last time he took a flashlight and some stick and then circled the house for a long time, tapping the walls and there, here and there. He had no idea how to deal with rats. At least that's what he thought, until he remembered how his mother used to handle this. After Timo had vanished, poisoning became the weapon of choice when it came to dealing with rats, the kind that should be kept away from small children and pets. Having remembered this, he went out to the hardware store and filled a cart full of colorful packages. Then he thoroughly strewed the whole house with bright, deadly pellets that crumbled under his feet when he went for coffee. After a while, the sound stopped. Yet, he could hear them again now. Something was scratching. It's been a long time, so no wonder. Those pests always come back. That's what his mother would say, and this time he agreed with her completely on the matter. He's trying to kill my guinea pigs. He considered his options. He had no poison left, and he could not go out to restock. He was completely immersed in his work. And although he was now much closer to the end of his script than to its beginning, there was still much to be done. Although he couldn't sleep, he still could work, and it would be stupid to lose pace just to go shopping. Besides, he had a cat now. He didn't really own her, of course, but she came to see him, and always made sure that she ate well. He had to care about her safety. No poison was not an option. Of course, he considered asking the cat to do the job, but every time she came, the thought completely vanished from his mind. They had other things than rats to talk about. He told her a lot about his work, and sometimes read what he wrote. The cat rarely gave any comments, but never refused to listen. He liked that about her. Not only that, of course. Take her scent, for example. She smelled of warm fur, dust, and something sweet. This may sound simple, but the smell made his heart ache with sadness and unbearable love. It was the smell of a warm June night in which Timo had vanished, and also many, many beloved cats before and after him. This cat, however, was special. He could feel it, although he couldn't articulate, couldn't find the right words. What a writer you are if you couldn't find the words. That's what he would say if he was talking to himself. But he never said such things, even if he couldn't sleep for a long time. At least you can work, said the computer screen, flickering in the dark. But he couldn't, as at that moment he heard that thing again. Something scratched, and this time the sound was different. He swung around and looked behind him, and swallowed hard, staring into the darkness. Suddenly his head cleared up. Something is coming, said the computer. Careful, said the flat white ceiling lamp. It should be downstairs, said the crumpled bed. Downstairs. The first floor was dark, veiled in slumber, just like the rest of the house. There is no point in turning on the light if you're going to stay in the same room typing all night, and all morning, and all day, and all night, next night too, unless of course the cat comes. And even if he had to go out, He knew the house perfectly well, even bonded with it. He needed no light to get anywhere he wanted. That's why he won't turn on the lights, so the ones who scratch wouldn't know that he knows. He decided so as he went down the stairs silently. The downstairs was quiet. He listened to the silence for a few minutes, but it sounded unconvincing. If something had started scratching, it won't go away that easy. He knew that for sure. Those pests always come back. He had to arm himself somehow. With the bat, for example. He still haven't... Hygie. No. He still hasn't put the bat away. So it was lying somewhere in the dark living room, heavy, reliable. I should not give you shit considering I read so many lines wrong and you never corrected me. Seriously, these guys are awesome people. All he had to do was reach to it before the one who scratches gets back to his work. As he passed the kitchen, a prickly shiver ran through him. As if someone was looking at him from the darkness of the room. Or was the room itself watching him? Either way, he knew better than to turn and peer into the dark maw of the entrance. If he does, if he dares, something will come out. Something he doesn't want to know about. He found the bat under the dresser, and just in time, because the next moment, he wouldn't have been able to move. Something was scratching in the walls, a new disgusting sound that had nothing to do with rats. To be more precise, this new sound could not have, anything to do with a living being. A painful spasm passed through his body. He crouched as if someone had hit him in the gut. Then he did something stupid. Stop it! Please stop! I can't take it anymore! But the nightmares don't end just because you ask politely, or because you really can't take it anymore. It felt like the voice didn't belong to him. Of course, the voice was his own, but he certainly would have never done anything like that. You never talk to one who scratches. Hi, what the fuck was that? He'd probably bear it if there were any visible traces left. But there were none. Only the screech, here and there, as if something was trying its strength in the house, looking around for something, looking for him. He regretted speaking out loud many, many times. It would have been better if he died quietly right there. This would have solved so many problems. He was leaning against the back of the sofa and quietly whimpering when it went silent, and suddenly, as it began. For a while he continued sitting crooked like a giant fetus, hugging his knees and his bat, and only moved when he really believed that everything had calmed down. In that moment, the round metal handle on the back door began to shiver. He didn't immediately realize where the sound was coming from, the soft rattling of metal and glass, but he had a clue. The transparent glass on the back door was closed by a thin polka dot curtain, and it trembled in rhythm with the sound. Then the house got quiet again. Some force, the same one that beckoned to the window on the high floors, called him to look behind the polka-dotted curtains. He knew just one look would be enough to make him lose his mind, but the call was too hard to resist. Carl is a sexy beast, you see, and he hadn't slept for too long. Slowly, as if half asleep, he made his way to the door. He could see the pattern clearly now, so close it was. Small dots, each one quivering with a silent cry. Do not look. Do not look. Do not look. He yanked the curtain aside, stared into the darkness with the eyes of a man facing a truck moving at full speed. Of course, there was no one at the door. After that, he had decided to always keep a bat nearby. Hi, Saki. You never got over it, did you?
Is something wrong?
The cat was lying on his lap. It had been a long time since our last visit, much longer than he would have liked. I don't know. Something is happening to me, and it's not insomnia. As if I'm missing something. As if something is missing inside me. I can't explain it well enough, but maybe you know what I mean? The cat was staring at nothing in silence, something only cats can do, right? Do you believe in ghosts?
Why would you ask?
I think I've run into something I can't quite explain. The cat was silent for a while.
Maybe. It is a matter of perspective.
What do you mean?
That which you've lost, those who you've lost. The number gets bigger over time. The struggle is not to become a ghost yourself. Before time, I mean.
Something tight in his throat.
I didn't want to upset you. I really didn't. Don't think about it, okay?
Her small palm gently touched his cheek. I can't. I really can't. Her thin, pale fingers with a neat fingernail pressed against his lips.
Shine. Have no grief at all.
The cat smiled playfully, almost shyly.
I can help with that.
Slyly. One of that shoulder straps of her light dress slipped to the side. I don't want to lose you. Is it possible? The cat looked at him for a long moment, and her pupils, unusually large, looked as black as a moonless night.
Scratch my ear, alright? I'll sing you the best song.
I like all of your songs.
I know, but I'll sing the best one.
He ran his hand through the warm, thick fur that smelled of dust and something sweet. The cat was smiling at him, laying in his arms. He could feel, with all of his being, the vibrations of another very different world as they were lulling his body. Now, usually this is a good spot to end it, but let's go long. The next time he had heard the one who scratches right beneath his window. Beneath the open window on the second floor, to be precise. At that moment, he was struggling with a tough scene near the story's ending. Imagining things is quite common if you haven't slept for a while and did a good job on burning out. You think you're hearing things, like as if someone is quietly slurping in the far corner of the room, just beyond where your eyes can see. Or, for instance, as if it's scratching at the wall and brick crumbs are getting stuck under its nails. And it's climbing higher and higher. He realized it could all be in his head, so he took his hand off the keyboard and listened carefully. Just in case. It could be that nothing was actually scratching. But his body already knew what was going on. It became cold and stiff, exactly like a house. Oh yeah, boy, you do hear it. Why, of course you hear it. Why wouldn't it be any different? After all, the one who scratches finally smelled you, and now it won't back off. And that's when his nervous tick came in. What a duo they are. He had to hold his breath to keep back the mixture of hysterical giggles and sobs trying to burst out of his chest. If they had escaped, this he knew, that would have been the end of him. And otherwise, he still had a chance. A pretty solid one. If he managed to suppress the tic, that is. When the text doesn't work out, just look away from the screen and wait a little. The tic will subside by itself. But what about the case when the one who scratches is creeping up on the wall higher and higher, and you can hear its nails, and it's got oh so many of them, leaving tiny, tiny grooves in the house's cladding. Cladding? They are very sharp, those nails. His mother always had fitting prayers ready for every occasion. But this time, this wasn't a right moment to think of it, as he had to try to do something. This time, even his mother would have been taken by surprise. She'd probably had to consult a neuropathy forum. Neuropathology forum. Well, I mean, neuropathy is part of neuropathology, I think. In this case, sure needs a professional opinion. Something like, "Greetings. My boy hasn't been sleeping for a month or so, and you know it, already started to get out of hand. He sits in a dark room all day, writing his stupid scribbles. I don't know why he got into his head that he can write, because after all these years in business, he still has neither a name nor connections." I feel personally attacked by this, and I don't like it. You know what I mean? And besides, she's always fond of embarrassing him before getting to the point. Besides, he's got an awful nervous tic when the one who scratches crawls up his window to scratch a hole in his stomach. What prayer would you find appropriate for this occasion? He's not really going to hit this thing with a bat, is he? My baby boy won't hurt a fly. He has no guts for that. The first thing he did when the days had worn off was grabbing the bat. Then he pressed himself against the wall by the window, and that was all he could do, for the nails were already scratching very close to the sill. I'm coming for you, little whiny boy with no guts. I'm going to scratch a hole in your belly to see if I can find them. He didn't want to see what was under the sill. He would prefer to die than look at it. The nails struck the sill. He knew there was now black marks on it, and some metal shavings under the nails. Maybe some of those nails got broken, but the one who scratches doesn't care. It's got oh so many of them. He stared straight ahead. His teeth were clenched, and saliva bubbled at the corners of his parted mouth. He was weeping without a sound, choking on a silent scream. He wasn't really going to hit this thing with a bat, was he? Something began to climb over the sill. He tried not to look, yet he could still see it. Something akin to squishy fingers or guts, with lots of nails that grew on top of each other like a clamshell. In the moonlight, he saw tufts of fur glistening on the finger guts, just like the rat's tail. Then he realized two things. Firstly, he got an insight on Timo's gifts. The thing is, his old cat continuously brought him something, the prey, those morbid little signs of unconditional love as he thought back on them. Yep, it means that the cat thinks you can't hunt and believes you're a kitten. I'm not joking, by the way, that's actually why they do it. They love you, and you're their kitten. But now he figured it out. Things he had been secretly throwing out the window in the middle of the night weren't dead mice. Those were fragments, tiny pieces of the hideous fingers of the one who scratches. Look, master, this nightmare is vulnerable. I drove it away. I brought you a piece of its flesh. Sorry. I brought it away. I brought you a piece of its flesh, which means you can sleep safely tonight. That's what the cat thought when its owner ruffled Timo's knobby, scabbed head. Timo was protecting you. Oh, I see a face. And secondly, he realized with all the clarity, this was a thing that lures cats into the darkness of summer nights, from which they never return. The thing that took Timo away. And now it's come for Selene. He stopped weeping, but was still breathing fast. Too fast, drawing air through bared teeth. Inside, he was boiling with rage. He wasn't really going to hit this thing with a bat, was he? He was. Damn right he was. He turned his head slowly, stared eyes wide open, without blinking as the glistening flesh clambered over the sill. He was waiting. He felt sick, but decided he will throw up later. Right after he turns that thing into a bloody mess. I know you. You won't get her. You won't get anyone! The sound that came out of his throat didn't resemble words, but that was exactly what he said. He charged that thing and thrashed it. He smashed its fingers, guts, tails, or whatever that shit was, and the bat seemed lighter than a feather. He had never been particularly strong, but now all his being became pure will, with the bat at its point of application. Bloody shreds kept bursting out of the sprinkling around as he smashed and smashed and smashed. He paid no heed to the nails that were trying to get him, tearing his clothes, tearing his skin. He didn't care. He didn't even feel anything. Anything but the desire to wipe this thing off the face of the earth, to smash it out of reality if he had to. Finally, the corpse crumbled and distorted, slid off the window frame and collapsed down. It was over. The blood-soaked bat slipped out of his hand and rolled across the floor, leaving a long black-red smear. He wouldn't have been able to lift it. He was barely standing on his feet, and drool mixed with blood ran down his face. He didn't want to look down, because he could feel the wet heat spreading out around his stomach. He knew where that was going. He stumbled to the bed and fell on his back. A hoarse gurgled breath came out of his mouth. More than anything, he wanted the cat to come. Happy Dreamland! Everybody loves tomato soup. Tomato soup is the devil's favorite food. Oh, I love these. It reminds me of home. Elijah doesn't like tomato soup. Everybody loves tomato soup. Elijah's a bitch. Something changed. Just stop with the outdated shit. So we have a few more of these. Looks like we've actually almost gotten everything. Let's see. He wanted the cat to come, okay. One of his eyes was badly damaged by the fall, but Mr. Bench was not too worried about it. He died a few hours ago. Before that happened, he threw up with something whitish, and the vomit was still foaming on his cheek, resembling cheap strawberry yogurt because of some blood mixed in it. The police was informed about it, the corpse, not the fact that Mr. Bench couldn't hold his dinner and got his pants a little dirty, by Miss Cora, a neat old lady who lived nearby and for the last decade never woke up later than 5 in the morning. But the first one to notice the body was the cat. She looked like a purebred British Shorthair in all respects except for the color. Aside from the smoky gray head, it seemed as if she was dropped onto a vat of white paint, while her lower part was dipped into a black one. As she passed Mr. Bench, she smelled the air from a few meters away, more cautiously than interested. Under different circumstances, she might have actually been interested in him, but the cat already had a special someone. She soared upwards, stabbing her milky white claw into the bark of a tall tree. The fur above the muscle on her back stood on end. In a few leaps, she reached the ledge and disappeared in the dark gape of the open window on the second floor. Don't break into my house. He could barely breathe at the time when the cat came back and he felt much better.
What have you done?
I was defending... I wanted to save you. I wanted to save us both.
You fool.
That's right. I just can't lose you.
It is too late.
He wanted to object, say something trivial like, it's never too late as long as we're both alive. But he could not. The cat clung to him with her entire body, sticking her lips to his. He suddenly realized she wasn't in fact skinny, more of a wiry and quite strong. The next moment, he felt his flesh tearing apart, and it tore easily, as quite some time had already passed. And with that, everything finally fell into place. He had read about it in some magazine. Feral cats, and many house ones, if their owner passes away, aren't above eating human flesh if they manage to reach it. But cats are very discerning, careful eaters. Having chosen a corpse, the cat remains faithful to it until it's stripped to its bone. Taking into some account, and also the number of empty sleeping pills cans everywhere, good God, there are too many of them, there was but a single conclusion to make. He died quite some time ago. It turns out those pills failed him once again. The ceiling was swinging back and forth, swaying him like a caring mother swinging a cradle. That's when he finally noticed it was the kitchen ceiling, and he was not laying in a bed, but on the floor. Some vague sounds were coming from outside the room, which grew more and more persistent over time. If he knew about Miss Cora's peculiar discovery, he would have probably guessed that the police were already breaking down his door. The cat hurried, stuffed her mouth, choking, swallowing pieces without even chewing them. He didn't mind. After all, a cat that has no home should eat well, shouldn't she? Although, he got rid of the one who scratches. The street is full of dogs and evil people. Even his mother would agree, and his mother never ever agreed with him. And yet, he still had one question to ask. Say, did you love me? Even a little? For a moment the cat took a pause with her task and looked him in the eyes. Her body was shivering. A yellowish flap of flesh that occurred to be a piece of rotting fat was trembling in her long, sharp teeth.
I do.
He breathed in her scent for the last time, the smell of fur, dust, and something sweet. The smell of carrion. That's a great game. It is. Death of the author. Ending 2 of 6. So I do need to find out about how to get the other endings. October 8th. I got an F for the essay. Mom will be mad. The bus driver said it was good and I should keep writing. He's nice, but I'd rather have a B anyway. Hope Mom isn't too. We'll find out next time, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for more Selene. Please think of supporting the game and me. If you're on YouTube, lots of links in the description. If you're elsewhere, please look at both my YouTube channels, Sinfully Pure, where I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers, and Sinfully Pure. Purity Sin Gaming. I did say that right. I don't know. I'm tired. Thanks, guys. See you next time for more Selene. Bye, guys.